In the previous video, we used the Lambda Genie console to set up our configuration, and we published the configuration into S3. Now, it's time to use this in our Lambda. I would recommend that you read through this. It's a pretty short read, but basically what we're saying here is there is the two parts to Lambda Genie. Is the Lambda Genie console that we used already, and then the runtime. The runtime is actually a couple of different libraries, and the best way to just get familiar with it is to go into this AWS Lambda section, and there is a Git repo. This Git repo has two projects. There's an API project and a UI project. The project does assume that you have a working knowledge of some of the technologies that we're using, but you don't necessarily have to know everything. Some of these are not used in this demo. Like for example, the DynamoDB secret management parameter store. We set them up, we don't use it in this demo. But we do use the Amplify. We use Amplify for the UI, the Amplify UI React library extensively. We use Cognito for logging in, account creation as an IDP. We use Lambda, obviously, because we want to use the rules inside the Lambda. API Gateway is just a front for Lambda. S3 is for configuration management. And the whole thing is built off of on top of CDK. So a little bit of CloudFormation. Let's take a look at the code. I'll talk about what we're making when we go over the CDK. So I have the code here already. You can see that. You can see right here should be the CDK. So if you look at the CDK, what we're doing here is we're making a user pool. We're making a user pool client. We're making a Node.js function. This one we're not using in this demo, but we're just going to set it up for a future demo. And then the config table and the secrets again are set up for an upcoming demo. The bucket. So you do want to make sure that you change this bucket to your bucket name. The name of our bucket for this demo is Lambda Genie demo. Yours will almost certainly be different because S3 won't allow the same name. So you just make sure you put your name here. There's another spot where you want to make sure that you've specified your name. We'll get to that in a second. But this is your Lambda that's going to provide the data for your UI to call. So we want to make sure that our Lambda has read access to the bucket to read the configuration. So you want to make sure you do that. There's the authorizer that connects the Cognito user pool to the API gateway. So the API gateway now is protected by Cognito and the authorizer to set that up. And then, just a couple of endpoints for the API gateway and then the outputs, right? So let me quickly go through, and I've already done, and so what you would do is you open up two command prompts, one for API, one for UI, and do an npmi on both of them. And once you're done with that, npm run watch. And what that does is it's basically going to just, before we did that, I don't know if that's going to break something, but before we do that, we want to make sure we update. Sorry, I should have done this. Config utils. We want to specify our bucket name, Lambda Genie demo. Hopefully that's not going to make CDK too angry. And while that's running, let's go over into the UI project. There are two files here, the example file for AWS exports, and then there's an example file for setup proxy. You want to copy these files and make your own versions of them, because so setup proxy is just a CRA thing. We are going to use this to reverse proxy to the API gateway. If we don't do that, we're going to run into tons of CORS issues. So we're going to just use a reverse proxy to get around that. So one of the things you want to do is watch for the output of this thing. When this thing is finished, it's going to spit out the API gateway endpoint as well as the user pool ID and the user pool client ID, and we're going to need both of those. So you just gotta keep an eye on this. Kind of goes by quickly, so let's see. We'll wait for that to come up. Okay, so that's done. So you want to copy this API gateway endpoint, paste it in here. You copy the user pool, go back into here, give it the user pool, and then the user pool client. And once this is done, you can do npm run start on the UI. Okay, so now that the UI is spun up, let's go ahead and create a couple of accounts. So if you look at what we're doing in the demo, so we did this, we did npm run watch on the stack. We got this, we specified the setup proxy, and then we did the start. And what we're saying now is to create some users, right? So let's first create the admin user. Admin at test.com, put in a password. Give it an age, doesn't matter. Let's click on create account. So obviously now this is not a valid email, so you're not going to be able to validate it, but what you can do is go into the user pool. There should be this is the user pool that was created as a part of the CDK. Click on this action, confirm account. You confirm this account. Also, you want to go in here and say mark address as verified. So now you should be able to go in here and log in as admin. So you can see when it does log in, it's going to make a call out to API gateway and hopefully get